Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Change the Light. While I'm training for a job with a railroad company, my instructor told me the story during a lecture. A few years before he was an instructor, he was an electrician for the railroad. He was called by a couple of engineers for a repair on a light in the engine's bathroom. He came up, looked at it, and said bluntly, "Listen, either I take 45 minutes to replace this, or I can give you a screwdriver and a replacement light to fix it in 2 minutes. The engineers, of course, chose poorly, telling him they wanted him to replace it. He sighed, threw up his hands, and said okay. For those who don't know anything about a railroad, there's a specific way you have to set up protection called blue signal. He went out to his truck, put up a signal at the front, drive a mile down to the other end of a train to put up the other signal. When he finally returned to the engine, getting into the cab, he told the two engineers, "Alright, out of my train. Per blue signal rules, now that it's been locked out, the engineers can't do anything to the train and were forced out into the cold to wait." My instructor then began messing with them, walking to his truck, grabbing a headlamp light, climbing in painfully slowly, and then yelling, "Oh, this one doesn't fit." Then walking back out and slowly climbing down, walking back to the truck, grabbing a different light, a tiny LED for a control panel. Then slowly making his way back, once again exclaiming it didn't fit, before finally walking back and getting the correct bulb and installing it. All because the engineers didn't want to do it themselves. Finally, after taking blue signal down, they were able to enter and be on their way, half frozen by then. The next story is called Tell the Dean. I started my career in desktop support at a university in the mid-90s. I supported several academic departments and computer labs. This included providing access to the labs to adjunct faculty, especially for night courses. A new adjunct in the sociology department had requested access in the evening for a lab controlled by a teammate of mine. I passed the request on and just assumed that my colleague would handle it. She didn't. The next morning, I had a nasty voicemail from the chair of the department, Dr. Cranky Pants, or Dr. CP, because the adjunct couldn't get into the lab and the class wasn't able to meet. I totally understand that this is a big deal. Classes, especially before Zoom, were difficult to make up. But this voicemail was a bit over the top. I had been warned about this new chair, Dr. CP, and that he was a bit full of himself. Very stereotypical Ivy League educated PhD. I told my colleague of the mistake and even followed up with her the next day, the night of the next class. Next morning, I walked into our office to find 2 envelopes on my chair and a blinking voicemail light on my phone. I immediately knew something went wrong with the adjunct's lab access. Dr. CP was livid. He was screaming on the voicemail. He threatened to scold me and have me fired if I didn't fix the situation, and I was instructed to open the envelopes. Even in the 90s, I thought the term "scalp" was tactless, especially coming from a sociology professor. The first envelope contained a letter about how I was incompetent and couldn't do my job. He threatened to send the letter in the second envelope to my boss and the dean. As you guessed, the second letter had more of the same and came with the request to have me fired for being incompetent. I'll be honest, my stomach dropped. I didn't think for a second that I was going to lose my job. However, I felt horrible that the adjunct essentially had to cancel class for a week. Everyone I worked with knew I worked hard. I knew I had nothing to fear, and my colleague would just get a slap on the wrist. You want to send this complaint to the dean? Let's do it. One thing Dr. CP didn't realize is that voicemails can be forwarded. I immediately forwarded it to my boss and handed him both letters. I told him I want nothing to do with Dr. CP anymore, if this is the way I was going to be treated. I asked him to send all the info to the dean and take care of it. The dean was quickly informed. Dr. Cranky Pants was no longer to contact me, and I switched departments with another colleague. I essentially fired him from my life. The last story is called No Excuses. I'm a 20-year-old college student full-time and doing 20 plus hours a week on top of classes to make ends meet. I live paycheck to paycheck and have a car I was paying off. I used to work at McDonald's in my hometown, but since I moved to live on campus, which was 45 minutes away from my old job, I wasn't willing to make the commute. So I decided to apply and got accepted to a small sandwich shop 10 minutes from my college, which was a blessing. It started out great. Plenty of hours, easy work, fast days. Till the old manager decides to switch stores. The new manager was one of the biggest Karens you have ever met. She completely changed the procedures and made things much worse. And when I'd have to stay over, sometimes 2 to 3 hours after closing, she'd burst in the next day yelling, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Stop staying later, you have to be out by 8:30, we won't pay you for any time past then." I had no choice, because the list she gave me to do to close the store alone every night was extremely time consuming, especially with no help. I was expected to stop serving at 8 and do 5 people's worth of work in 30 minutes. It simply wasn't doable. There was no winning. I wasn't going to be paid for the time I worked. For the time I spent making sure everything was done on the list before I left. Otherwise I'd be fired for not doing all of it. And she said I'd be fired if I stayed longer than 8:30. On top of that, the moment management switched, they decided they were giving people too many hours and cut me to only 3 hours a week. That went on for 4 weeks, till I decided enough was enough. $45 work weeks wasn't even worth putting in the time and effort to even show up. So one weekend I was with my parents off campus. I was due to work that day. 3 hours of course, my only day that week. I was shopping near the sandwich shop. It's located inside a Walmart. My mom and I were discussing for the last week how I should quit. It seemed they are trying to fire me without saying they are firing me, wanting me to leave on my own, so they wouldn't need to fill out paperwork. Right then and there, I decided, screw this job, am I entitled Karen boss? I sent her a text that I quit on the spot and do not expect me to come in that night for my shift. She texted me back, ranting about how since I'm not giving her a 2-week notice, I'll never be able to work at one of those sandwich shops again. At that point, I didn't care. I already had to give up my brand new car of only 4 months because I couldn't pay my loan and insurance. It was a nice car, I loved that thing. I told her that at some point that week I would try to bring them the brand new uniform that, funny enough, they just gave me the week prior. A whole 3.5 months after I started working there. But I warned her that my classes run till right before closing, and I didn't know when I'd be able to do so. She texts back in what I could only imagine the snarkiest tone possible. "No, I really need that uniform back tomorrow." I told her I'm sorry, but that may not be possible due to my school schedule. And I'm not willing to ditch a class to drop off a few pieces of clothing. She said, "No, you will bring it back tomorrow. Don't even try to lie to me, you were seen in store the day you quit. No excuses." Okay then. She said no excuses. I didn't want to go into an argument with her over it. And knowing she would be closing that day, and my classes ended at 8 exactly, I happily complied. I made sure I'd arrive right as she was closing the lock on the gate. I was bringing the clothes in my reusable shopping bag. I had no throwaway bags, and since she can take and claim my bag as her own, I was just going to give her the clothes one piece at a time. Knowing she would have to carry them out of the store, juggling them back home made me happy. When it came time to deliver my uniform to her, all the stars seemed to align perfectly. I arrived at 8:30 and caught her on the way out with the outfit, not even in a reusable bag to begin with. As extra touch of sweet unplanned irony, it was raining outside. The sidewalks were extra slippery and muddy, cause on my way in, I slipped and landed chest first into the mud. I was mostly spared though, because the clothes were there to break my fall and absorb most of the filth. Dropping off the muddy loose clothes, seeing her reaction, watching her stomp her feet, wrench in disgust, holding the clothes 10 feet away from her body, huff and puff, marching out of the store in pure shock and disbelief. She didn't even have words for me. It was the sweetest revenge I had ever seen. This did mean I had to buy a whole new set of clothes and change in the Walmart bathroom, but it was all worth it to see her reaction in the end. After I had returned to my dorm that evening, I sent her a text saying simply, "Enjoy," and I blocked her number. Safe to say, karma really did pay out on my end. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.